Okay, it's book launch week for Monique Volz, our guest today of Ambitious Kitchen. She put out her new cookbook, the Ambitious Kitchen Cookbook, that came out just a few days ago. So you can go ahead and get that today. And we're going to talk all about being a mom of three little boys, putting together a cookbook, eating for your fertility, eating during pregnancy, eating postpartum, how to nourish your body, feed your body, all those good things that we all care so much about. So, welcome, Monique. I this morning made like the happy mistake of watching so many of your videos on your Instagram right when I woke up this morning, which just like I'm never hungry in the morning, but it jump started my appetite like right from the beginning, and I was just firing off recipes because my husband is thankfully the one that cooks in the family very well. So I was just sending him tons of your recipes because they all look so good. And I love that so many of them are with the goal of making them really non-intimidating, easy. They're not like this whole elaborate thing, especially
Yeah.
for, busy people. And also, a lot of them seem very kid friendly. So I'm
Yes.
very excited about them. Thank you.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad. Yeah, no, I think now since having kids, the way I cook is totally different. You don't have as much time, so it's like I want to get the nutrition in. I want to eat well. I want them to eat well, and I want it to be like pretty straightforward, but also delicious. So,
Has the way that you cook or also like looked at food changed in any other ways since becoming a mom, aside from like the time and the meal prep that goes into it, but just overall?
I think so, yeah. Obviously, you said definitely the time aspect. Like, I used to spend so much time in the kitchen, and now it's like, forget it, 30 minutes, it needs to happen. But also now I'm looking to always add more nutrition to the recipes, because my kids don't always eat their veggies. And sometimes even fruit they get picky with. So I'm always like, if I make a muffin, I'm putting zucchini in it, or carrot, or banana. I'm always trying to like, notch up the nutrition by like sneaking veggies in there. I know sometimes, people don't like to sneak veggies in, but when they sit down to the dinner table, they're not always willing to eat their broccoli or their peas or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
I mean,
So,
I don't know why anybody would be against sneaking in nutrition, especially with kids, because I mean, the likelihood of your children, or maybe it's just mine, that would just like house a zucchini is
yeah, right.
very, very slim to none versus if you were to be putting it in some sort of a baked good that,
Yeah,
they will eat and just like not even know that it's there. I feel like that's a win-win for everybody, is it not?
100%. I think so. But some people, I think the argument is like, well, if you give them veggies at a young age, they'll get used to it and they'll love them. I'm like, you know what? Not always the case because my first baby, I tried that and he loved everything up until like 18 months and they start to get a little bit picky.
Yeah.
So,
It's a whole thing. Okay, so how old are your kids?
so my kids are 4, 3, and 1.5, all boys. It's a
Oh my
party,
gosh, all boys. Are
all
you
boys.
done? Are you done at three boys?
Um, you know, we always really wanted a girl, and I feel like we might go for it. We're
Yeah.
already in the chaos, I think after your second, you're like, woo, I get it. For us,
Right.
going from 2 to 3 was like so much more of a breeze going than from going from 1 to 2. But we're like, I don't know. We're thinking about it.
Yeah. Or you could end up with four boys. That would be a
I see
real party.
it would be
Yeah.
a little baseball team.
Yeah, for sure. That's so sweet. And, I love that, your cookbook also not only appeals to moms and dads and just people who are busy and have a full life and on the go. It's also so beautifully done. I love that you incorporated your family so much into the pictures and the recipes and just like the overall thought behind everything that went into the cookbook because for me personally, when I think of cooking something, which doesn't happen a ton, but mostly baking things, which I know you also have a ton of in there and also on your page, I always want to try to do things that I can incorporate my kids into and make them part of the
Mm-hmm.
process because it's such, from what I've heard, such a big part of getting them comfortable in the kitchen, getting them involved in what they're eating. So I love that. I want to go back though and talk about just like ambitious kitchen in general, because you did a video on your Instagram that kind of talked about how you ended up with ambitious kid, like how that name came, the
Hmm.
meaning behind being ambitious. So I want to go back to that because I think it's such a great way to get fired up about all that you're doing.
Yeah, so Ambitious Kitchen, I started it when I was like 21. I was in college and I was kind of grieving the loss of my dad at the time. And I wanted to create this blog or this website, if you will, um, as a place to really connect back to my family, and connect to the special moments that were created in the kitchen. You know, some of my happiest times were in the kitchen with my mom and dad. And so I started it, and I think it completely changed the course of my life. I mean, now I have a cookbook, and but also I was struggling with like an eating disorder at the time. I was just going through a lot, and I wanted to kind of reclaim the kitchen. I wanted to find my own sense of ambition and really teach myself how to cook and how to love food again. And it was a beautiful process. It was a long process, but it was really, really beautiful. So that's kind of how it started. And I think the word ambition, everything that I've done is just I'm always trying something new. I'm always, not really afraid to step into discomfort and start, thinking about a new idea. And so I'm a Capricorn, and it was just one of those things that flowed so easily. And I was talking with my best friend, and I was like, I don't know what to call it. And she was like, okay, you're very determined, you're ambitious, you're all of these things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is perfect, Ambitious Kitchen. And so ever since then, it just feels like it really has, been all encompassing. But I also think that like the word ambitious is interesting because now everybody has their own sense of what ambitious means to them, especially when it comes to the kitchen. I think we all have our own definition of health and wellness and how we like to eat. And so I really just want people to eat well, to learn how to cook and to love it, and, to add more nutrition to their food and still realizing that healthy eating doesn't have to mean like that it's not flavorful.
The message that you convey so well is that it doesn't, healthy eating and good nutrition also doesn't have to be really complicated or challenging, because I
Yep.
feel like you lose so many people in that kind
Yeah.
of presentation or language is like, oh, well, if you have 6 hours to make this, then,
Right.
great. But you're making everything for people who might have 6 hours and want to really draw out that process, but also might only have 30 minutes and have naps and pickup and drop off and, a lot of things
Hmm.
going on. What's been the kind of biggest response with the word ambitious when it comes to like food and just nutrition and kitchen? Because you don't really think of that as being something that's lumped in with food necessarily.
Yeah, I think it's just been about empowering people in their kitchen. Like, I think the feedback that I get a lot from my community is just like, oh, I tried something new and that was like really exciting for me. And it
Right.
might not be ambitious for somebody else, but it was ambitious to them. And they felt like they really like succeeded at that task. So it could be something like learning how to caramelize onions for the first time, or something like making a yeast bread, a cinnamon roll, or a dinner roll from scratch. I think it's about teaching a lot of these new skills that people really find exciting too.
Right.
So,
You also have recipes in there that incorporate things like from Trader Joe's that are already pre-made, but you add in different
yeah.
things to. I was watching one that you did on pot stickers, and I was like, if I did this, I would have felt like I made the pot sticker from, I would pitch it to everybody as like I made the pot sticker from scratch, because it gives the whole um, presentation that way, which I love. But it seems like you really also like, it's more than just about cooking and food. This is deeper. It's also like a deeper
Mhm.
message that you're conveying um, to parents, to people, to anybody who might pick up your book or come across your Instagram, or all the things that you're doing and the energy that you're putting out there. It's not just about food. It's about life and how you choose to live your life.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think, making something healthier can start small. Like, that dumpling salad. It was like, okay, yes, they were from Trader Joe's, but you added all of these gorgeous herbs and tomatoes, and it was just so beautiful. Like, you could bring that to a party, you could serve that for dinner, and it would feel very elevated, even though you didn't spend that much time on it. But it's healthy and it's nourishing because of all of those things. So I think it's like about starting small and finding that little sense of ambition in kind of everything you do. I try to just live a really full life, and I want to encourage other people to do the same.
One of like the big questions that I feel like people constantly ask about, um, with everything that we see going on in the food industry and with people really wanting to be mindful of what food they put in their bodies, on their bodies, being mindful of what phase of life you're in. For me, with BDA baby, we focus so much on the phases of before, during, and after baby. So we get a lot of questions about food and fertility, food and pregnancy, food postpartum. And you've obviously done this 3 times. So if we're talking about food overall and also even how they impact your hormones, what you choose to put in your body, um, do you have any big takeaways for those phases of a woman's life of before, during, and after baby?
Yeah, yeah. And I think it was something that I struggle with to get pregnant. I think the first for the first pregnancy, it took me over a year and a half to get pregnant. So after you've kind of like sorted out if everything's working okay, and everybody's getting testing and things like that, I think what I did was focus a lot on just making sure there was enough healthy fats in my diet. Omega 3s are incredibly important, especially from things like nuts. So walnuts, seeds like pumpkin seeds, Brazil nuts are a great source of selenium, but also you're getting an incredible amount of omega 3 in there. Healthy fish, just really making sure that your food is very nutrient dense, and the less processed, the better. Also, cutting back on caffeine was something that I did and I think was really helpful. And then, of course, making sure that you're really hitting those key nutrients, which is obviously taking a prenatal, ensuring that the folic acid that you have in your prenatal is, your body's really absorbing that. Um, and then, things like the vitamin D, the vitamin B, just checking all of those boxes. But, I think a lot of people do struggle with nutrition if you don't have the time to really plan out your meals. And sometimes I think working with a dietitian or a nutritionist can really be beneficial during that time. But honestly, it's just making sure that you're getting really those vegetables in, those seeds, those nuts, and those healthy fats.
Did you do anything during your pregnancy or even postpartum that you found to be helpful or different in each of your pregnancies?
Um, I honestly stuck with sort of the same kind of routine because I was like, oh, this worked really well.
Yeah.
But I I would say that each of my pregnancies were very different. The second one was a lot harder than the first. I was a lot sicker. I did eat, things that were rich in B vitamins, which is, supposed to help with nausea, but I don't
Yeah.
think it really did.
Mhm.
But just focused on a lot of high protein foods. And then when I was sick during the first trimester, trying to get that nutrition in from smoothies at least, I think they're a great way to really pack in a lot of nutrient dense foods. Like you could do chia seeds, hemp seeds, a protein powder, and then obviously, you could do spinach. I even put frozen cauliflower in my smoothies. I don't know if you've tried that, but
I have not.
I know it sounds weird, but it is an exceptional way to make it really creamy and you're getting veggies in. Um, yeah, but that's a great way to really get a lot of good for you foods in, especially when you're not feeling great and you really only want to have like a bagel or something like that.
When it comes to postpartum, I
Hmm.
my first 2 pregnancies, I noticed such a big difference postpartum with my healing process and also just the hormones after having a baby, with the change in how I fed myself and like refueled my body. The first time was during like the thick of COVID, so there was not a ton that was accessible. It was kind of like whatever was available
Mm-hmm.
at the grocery store. And for my second daughter, after I had her, I ate a lot of like the Ayurvedic way of kind of nourishing your body, eating warm
Mm-hmm.
foods. Is that something that you also have experienced or are mindful of in how you talk to women who are pregnant or postpartum about nourishing their bodies?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a fantastic book out there too that I think it's called 40
The
40
first 40
days.
days?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful. I have that book and I read it. It was great. So definitely focusing on those warm foods, but I think also having things that are accessible because there's not a lot of time when you're
Yeah.
postpartum. You think that there's going to be all this time, and then it's like the end of the day, and you're like, what happened today? I feel like I just breastfed and I don't know what happened, right?
Yeah.
So I think having foods in your freezer that are nourishing. So, like if you make an enchilada, sweet potato, black beans, like making sure that there's high protein and decent fats in there. Um, and having things that are just easy to take out because I think that in reality, we'd all like to sit there and prep a quinoa salad for the week, but sometimes that's just not possible. It's not
Yeah.
possible to take 20 minutes and chop a bunch of raw veggies. So I think just having like we talked about like zucchini muffins, things that are, just nutrient rich, baked oatmeals. Oatmeals are amazing. Or oatmeal is amazing for, breastfeeding, and lactation production. So things like that that are really easy to reheat, are great to keep in your freezer. And a lot of times it's nice to do like a meal train or just, have friends that are going to drop things off. And what I like to do is almost make a list of like those warming foods, those healing foods, which again are a lot of like the superfood bases to just give to friends and say, hey, would you mind like making me this? Like I always love having this, um, on
Yeah.
hand.
The meal train thing, I didn't realize until I had my first daughter what a big part of that is. And then even when I had my second daughter, just like the idea of thinking about what my older daughter is going to eat, like the meal train thing is actually so helpful. And before having kids, I thought what was helpful was like, you know, buying a swaddle.
Yeah,
But it really
yeah.
is like just the taking certain things off of your plate as a new mom and being able to have somebody else have that on their to-do list instead of you is so helpful. So I love the meal train idea. I want to do 5 things that you always keep in your refrigerator and 5 things you always keep in your pantry.
Oh, wow. Okay, so 5 things I always keep in my fridge. Persian cucumbers. I'm having an obsession with those right now. Sambal olik or gochujang. Um, a whole milk plain Greek yogurt. Ooh, what else? I mean, always like fresh fruit. And I love the Califia Farms almond milk creamer. It's a
That's a
go-to
good
for
one.
me. Hmm.
That's a good one.
And then the pantry. Okay, wow, so tough. And granola butter, Oat House granola butter. It's like a nut-free alternative. It's so good. Almond flour. I bake a lot with almond flour. Um, Pearl couscous. It's my obsession. I love using that. My kids love it. We always have Goodles, the mac and cheese.
What's Goodle?
And yeah, have you heard of that?
No.
Okay, well, it's like a better for you mac and cheese. It's higher protein. Check it out. They sell it at Target. Highly recommend.
Okay.
And my kids love it. And then last one, Three Wishes cereal.
Oh,
It's
I
with
love
the
Three Wishes
chickpea cereal.
cereal. Yeah,
It's so good.
it's so good. It's something that I feel like everybody in the family likes anyway. My brother Patrick comes over to my house and eats an entire box of just dry Three Wishes cereal. So it's like a snacking food for him.
Yeah, no, it is. It's great too for kids, like just throwing it in their lunchbox or a snack on the go. It's like, oh, you know what? It's better for you than whatever else.
Yeah, I mean, it is. You've mentioned a couple times freezer food just to have things on hand. So, what would be things that you ideally like to keep in the freezer just to have on hand to throw in a recipe and get that kind of extra nutrients?
Yeah, so I make a veggie packed meat sauce. So I'll throw in like a zucchini, a couple carrots, red bell pepper, onion, and I cook that with really whatever meat I have on hand. So you could do beef, chicken, turkey. And then, it's basically just like a red sauce, and I'll freeze that, and then I can reheat it whenever, and just put it over pasta for the kids, and they have no idea. I process all of the veggies really finely down and cook them down. So that's one I feel good about. I love having like an enchilada dish in my freezer. So anytime I make them, I always just make a double batch and it's like just throw that in there. Um, Other than that, like a lot of muffins for breakfast. I love to switch it up in the morning. Breakfast burritos. I'll eat those for lunch too. I'm a big burrito type of gal. I love it because you could do like roasted veggies and eggs or even ground meat. So those are things that I have a lot in my freezer. Oh, and energy bites.
Energy bites. What are
Yeah.
those?
Oh, so you can make them a couple different ways, but I like to basically it's just a base of nut butter, flaxseed, protein powder, and then you could do like chocolate chips and coconut and a little honey in there, and you mix it up, and they form these like balls that are basically like kind of taste like cookie dough, but they're really, really good for you. My kids love them. You can keep them in the freezer for like 3 months and just snack on them.
Wow.
Great for postpartum too, when you want snacks all the
Great for
time.
postpartum, great for pregnancy, and also great for just like it sounds like the kids really enjoy them too.
Yep, yep.
I love that. Um, I'm so excited about your cookbook, not only because it's beautiful and also very aesthetically pleasing to have on a shelf because of the color palette that you chose for me.
Yeah, it's fun.
Um, but what is your biggest goal with putting a cookbook out there? Because as you've talked about, it's 2 years in the making. It's a lot of work. It's a very big undertaking, and people always say like, oh, you have everything on your Instagram, you have everything on your website, but putting it together in a book involving your family, involving, doing this at home, it takes time and energy. What is your goal by putting this cookbook out there?
I think a number of different things. I think one, I've always wanted to write a cookbook. It was like one of my goals 10 years ago. It's just something I've always wanted to do. Um, to reach new people, to share like my love of nutrition with more people and help people discover, their own sense of ambition, but also like different ways you can add nutrition to foods. Like, oh, I can put a can of pumpkin in my enchilada sauce and nobody would ever know, especially my husband.
Yeah.
So things like that. But also, I think it's just there's something so like it's tangible. It's like, oh, this is going to be in the world forever. And I feel very proud of that. And, if I never make one again, that's totally okay. But like, I can say like, oh, I did that. It's a goal for me. It's like fulfilling my sense of ambition. So, yeah, quite a few different reasons.
One of the things that I have always loved about cookbook launches is the events that everybody does in the cooking world, because they're not only really great to go to hungry, but
Hmm.
also they're always interactive, they're fun, they're unique. They're not just like a regular book signing that I find myself
Hmm.
doing.
Hmm.
So I envy that part of your book launch. But I mean, when you talk to people about this idea of putting this book out there and also just like thinking of the people that you're going to be interacting with when launching this book, what is that like for you? Because I'm sure it's going to be moms, dads, people that don't have kids, people that have, gone from not knowing how to do anything in the kitchen to experimenting because you put really approachable and easy to learn videos out there. So going into a book tour, it's your first book tour, right? So,
My first, yep.
yeah. So, what's that like? Are you excited for that? Do you anticipate anything or?
I'm excited. I'm nervous, not about meeting anybody or anything like that. I'm honestly nervous about being away from my kids for so long.
I know.
Um, it'll be like my first time away from them for about 2 weeks straight. So that is going to be really challenging. But no, I'm excited to just meet people who I think have been a part of my journey for so long. I started my site when I was 21. Hadn't even met my husband yet. So some people have been along for the ride, and it's kind of cool because I feel like I've grown up on the internet in a way.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it'll be really, really special to just meet people and hear their stories about like how my book has helped them. And what's cool about it too is that 85% of the recipes in the book are brand new. So they're never before seen recipes. And I really wanted them to sort of be like classic takes on food, like better for you banana muffins. I mean, everybody's had a really good banana muffin, but you want one that's going to be better for you and that you can make for, I don't know, as long as you want. So
Yeah.
just a classic go-to.
Yeah. I'm so excited for you to be kind of launching your book and also being excited about interacting with people because it's such a unique part of the book launch space is like getting creative with events and connecting with people and talking to people and getting people excited about what you're doing. So I'm excited for this whole process for you. I think it's going to be so great because the book looks amazing and all that you're putting out there is really great and approachable and beautifully done, beautifully filmed and curated, and the
Oh, thank
photographs
you.
in the book, like everything. I know how much time that takes. So,
Hmm.
you look at it and people are like, oh, this, it seems
Yeah,
like it's like so straightforward and you're like, you have no idea. So, I'm really
it's
excited
true.
for this to come out for you and for you to experience your first book tour and the being away from your kids is such a stressful part of it. I
Hmm.
totally hear you on that part of it. My last book tour that I did last year, I brought both of my kids with me. My girls were 2 and 8 months, and I
Oh
was like,
gosh.
"This is crazy."
Oh my
I was like,
gosh.
"Why?" I mean, I loved having them with me because I was so nervous and anxious about the idea of leaving
Sure.
them, and it was great
Yeah.
to have them, but also it was just such. I mean, bringing little kids on a book tour is crazy. So,
Well, right. And it's a lot, I mean, it's a lot of energy, like
yeah,
going on tour and everything like that. And then to go back to your hotel or whatever
yeah,
and be like, okay, now it's mom mode. I mean,
I know.
that is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just looking at your book the other day because my second niece was just born and she
Aw.
has an older sister. I have two nieces now, so I'm like, I need to get it because,
Aw.
in a couple of years they'll be sharing a room or not sharing a room. We'll find out.
Yeah,
But
I know. It's so fun. Two girls. I mean, all the kind of like sibling dynamics are so great. I'm sure you see that, full force with three boys, but it's a sweet dynamic when they're, so little to see them like have an interest or also get to the age where they can play with each other is like
oh yeah, yes,
the greatest thing
so
ever.
nice.
So, yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. And I'm excited for your book to come out. And
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
thank you so much to Monique for taking time during her crazy, hectic book launch week to sit and chat with us. I'm so excited about her book. It's on stands now. You guys can go to your local bookstores and get it. She's doing events. She's on a full book tour for 2 weeks away from her kids. So we're wishing her good luck on that journey. And make sure to check her out if she comes to your city. It's such a beautiful cookbook, so well done, and the recipes are super yummy. So, congrats.